talk about when we want our partners to change. So all the messages I get, all the emails and all the messages I get, I think this is a little bit of the subtext of them all. What do I do about my partner? And within that, there's something about my partner I want to change. I want things to get better. I want them to work on this. I want our relationship to feel different. I want to feel different in the relationship. So it's human nature, and it's okay. It's okay to want our loved ones to change, and they probably want us to change, let's be honest. But I think change is a very delicate thing to navigate, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, because yes, growth is important. Change is part of life, evolving and becoming better and better. You know, for those of us who want to do that, that is a great way to be. But there are traps we can fall into along the way with that. And of course, the trap is when we want someone to change, that can become our focus. And so then we are looking at and relating to our loved one or partner from a place of, you are not okay. The way you are is unacceptable to me. And so whilst it might be true about that one behavior or attitude or way of being, it's not true about the global human being, is it? But that is actually what can happen, and I see this with my clients often, is there is a focus on the negative. There's a focus on the problem, and suddenly the person becomes the problem. And then we're in really dangerous territory, because A, that's really unfair to our partners, and B, it's not true. It's not true. And then if we think about, you know, this process a little bit, it's kind of, that is precisely the kind of attitude and behavior that is going to stop someone's growth. You know, when we are being on the receiving end of criticism, things are wrong, it's not good enough, etc., that does not motivate us to change. Okay, one of two things can happen. We can feel full of shame and upset, and it exacerbates our low self-esteem, which then also kind of keeps us stuck. Or we get angry and we go, no, I'm not doing that. Don't you tell me what to do, and we can dig our heels in. It's a defensive stance, because there is a perceived need to protect ourselves. When someone is fault finding, perhaps, and we're on the receiving end of that, we are not going to be really excited about changing. And as I say, if it has become a hyper focus for you or in the relationship, then again, there's this disproportion. And then there's a sense of, well, why bother? Because whatever I do, it's not enough. I hear this so often in my sessions. I mean, all the time. One person desperate for change, wanting things to be better, really trying to come from a place of love, some of the time, place of anger, other times, but really wanting the best. But the other person receiving that as, I am not enough. It's never going to be enough. I try to do these things, and then those get criticized. And then, so what do I do? So I'm just not going to do anything. And then both people are in these fixed positions. So that is a massive trap to fall into. We can become fault finders, and we can become complainers. Just complain, and then we've fallen into a way of relating, which is what I'm saying is unhelpful, and it's not actually going to get you what you want. If you want change, let's just take a step back. Let's think for a moment. What helps us bring change in our lives? Funnily enough, change happens when we're in an environment of supportiveness, of growth, but also of being loved. It sounds sort of counterintuitive, but the more loved we are, the more we want to be, the more we want to shine, the more resources we have to bring to life's challenges. The more criticized we feel, the more kind of small we are made to be, then that's going to be reflective. We are not going to feel motivated to change. We're going to question ourselves. We're going to be angry. We're going to hide behind walls. So it is an interesting thing that I do with my clients, which I often do, which is, let's look at the good. Let's look at the resources of what's happening here. You know, and I'll say to my clients, just give me 20 things that your partner is incredible at, that you love, that you admire, that you respect, that, you know, you think are sexy. And sometimes people struggle. Sometimes people really have to, and we just sit there in silence, and it's pretty uncomfortable, but it's important, because it's like, how far down this road have you gone? That actually all the positive is literally no longer retrievable in your mind. Why are we here? What are we working on? And so we get to a place where we can see the positivity, we can see the resources, and we start building bridges with each other. So someone can be like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way, and oh yeah, that is quite nice. And then suddenly this person can take down their wall brick by brick, because it isn't about how bad they are or terrible or useless or whatever. And that may not be what you are communicating, but it may well be what they are receiving. Because wanting to be changed, part of us goes, oh, well, obviously I'm not good enough the way I am, or there's something wrong with me, I am wrong. And then it feeds into this really negative self-esteem thing. So we can't hyper-focus. We need to focus on the positives and the resources, and we need to then communicate that loud and clear to our partner. I'm not saying suddenly become this like positive fairy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying take the 100% of energy that you're putting into thinking about the problem, just take back 40-50% of that energy and put that towards appreciating what is there. Noticing small things that actually are really positive. You know, validating those, acknowledging your partner. It's highly invalidating when it's all about the negative. When there's a balance between really validating and acknowledging the good and showing appreciation, that balances then any possible complaint. Because then it's like, okay, it's like the rough with the smooth around here, as opposed to it's just a rough with the rough and it just gets rougher. Okay, so communicating it is really important. You know, in corporate environments, in work environments, you know, when we are reviewing people and when we're wanting people to progress, we talk about their strengths. We notice the things that are really, really positive and strong about their performance. And then we give a few things to work on. There is a reason for that. You know, as humans, it can feel like an onslaught. You know, and I think crucially in our intimate relationships, we disconnect. And as a relationship therapist, for me, it's really important. How do we stay connected? Because when I'm connected to you and we're really connected and there's a lot of love and there's a lot of appreciation, I can talk about some difficult stuff because that connection is there. And that is solid in us. If there's just complaints and annoyances and admin and it's just sort of one thing after another, there is a disconnect. And then we want to come and bring something negative that we're going to say directly to that person. It's going to create even further distance. And then we get this lack of cooperation. You know, when I'm working with a couple, they come in, there's no cooperation. There's just anger. Cooperating means surrendering to the other. And I'm saying, okay, look, we're not fighting a war here. We are, you know, two people in love. Let's show that love. And then when that love is kind of nice and sort of consistent, then we bring in and then we deal with problems from a place of love. And this is true for parenting, this is true in our work, it's true for everything. So yes, want change. Be careful you don't fixate on it. See the resources, see the good, acknowledge it and validate it all the time. Let that become the culture of your relationship. And then when there's an issue, gently bring it up. But bring it up within the context of all that goodness. If there's just if all there is problem, it's really difficult to move into a solution mindset. But when there is loads of fuel in the tank, we can go on those long journeys. When there's no fuel in the tank, can't go anywhere. So put some fuel in the tank, and then you can go lots of different places, and you can withstand those journeys. So something to think about. I'm a therapist. I believe in change. Change is important in life. But when I work with someone, I connect with the human being. I appreciate all that is good with them. I kind of love them. I sort of see what all the beautiful, amazing parts of those, and I celebrate those. And then from that place, we bring in some of the stuff, and it's like, okay, how do we deal with this? And there's a sense of being a team, but there's a sense of complete and utter faith and trust in my client that they are going to do whatever needs to be done with their problems in life. That is a securely attached relationship. Okay, and that is a relationship based on love and respect. That's what we're ultimately aiming for. So I hope that gives you something to think about. Let me know your thoughts as ever. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.